Good evening, everyone. Tonight's speaker, Roy Mason, has 30 years of experience in financial services. As an Edward Jones advisor in Buffalo Grove, he helps clients develop strategies for retirement, college savings, and financial protection. Originally from Ontario, Canada, Roy moved to Springfield, Illinois in 98 and later became a US citizen and also joined Edward Jones. He lives in Buffalo Grove with his wife and 4 children, and he enjoys family time, youth sports, grilling, movie production, and retro video games. It also said on here smoke, like grilling and smoking, and I've never heard
Yeah.
you talk about that you're
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a hobby. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. The last
Well,
few years.
welcome.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just kind of go dark, but
Right.
if you have questions or anything, I'm right behind the blacked out screen. So
Okay.
I'll hand it over to you, Roy.
Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and try to get us set up here. Okay. So hold on one moment. We're just there we go. Okay. So I am
Perfect.
hoping you can see that. Okay, good. Thanks for that confirmation. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. As Ashley said, my name is Roy Mason. I'm with Edward Jones. I'm here in Buffalo Grove. I live in Buffalo Grove for the last few years. And so essentially, we help, what I've been doing a lot of my professional career is helping people transition from working to retired, or maybe you've recently been laid off, and you've got some different plans at various places, and that you maybe are needing to make changes in the near future. So this will address a lot of that. But let's go ahead and take a look at what our options. Again, that's just my information there. So this is our process at Edward Jones. Edward Jones has been around for about 102 years. So we've been around the block once or twice. And so what we do, and what I always say when we start our planning process, is that we start with where you are today. I remember my dad, before GPS and everything, he would get the big map out. We were going to go on a road trip, and he would say, okay, well, this is where we are. And you put a pin or an X on and think, okay, well, this is where we want to be. And then how are we going to get there? And that's really how we do the financial planning process, is we try to figure out where you are, where you want to be, and then how do we get there, and how do we have enough time and money to be able to stay there. And that's how we look towards your retirement. Then we have to do the very important process of tracking your progress, whether you're moving towards retirement or in retirement, or a combination of both. Sometimes you're working, but you're still retired from your long-term job, a variety of just different situations. So one of the things I've learned in this industry is that, no situation is ever really the same. Everybody's a little bit different. So we're going to cover some basic information, but remember that everybody is just a little bit different in what their approach is, and we can help accommodate that if we can ever be of service. So what we're going to take, and I guess that I kind of revealed that slide already, but so whatever your current situation is, maybe you changed employers, maybe you're laid off, but you're not yet ready to retire, but you're close. Maybe you were offered an early out package somewhere, and you're not kind of unexpectedly retired. That's something that happens. Or you're ramping up and you're ready to retire, maybe by the end of the year or by July, a variety of different things. So everybody has kind of their own situation, and we can help you. We can work with that and help you wherever you are. So here's your basic choices when it comes to a retirement plan. So what I'm referring to is a 401k, a 457, a 403b. I was going to make one up, but I'm just making a joke. But the whole point is you have different options, different retirement plans that you've been generally defined benefits. Sometimes it's a pension, sometimes but it's a retirement plan that you've been saving over the years, and you're ready to make that exit. So from your employer, but with your retirement plan, you have a variety of different choices. So the very first one is to leave the assets in the plan. So you leave it, move it, roll it, or take it. So you can leave it there. You can move it, so you can move it to your new employer plan. If you have a new employer, you can roll it and take possession of the assets without paying taxes on it and control it in a traditional IRA or possibly Roth IRA, depending on how your contributions were handled at the old plan. Or you can take it, so you can actually have them write a check. But there are some definite trade-offs on all of those things. So with each one of them, there's always going to be, in options, there's going to be benefits, but there's going to be trade-offs. So we're going to talk about each one of these items tonight and what the benefits are, but also what the trade-offs are. Do I have any questions out there before we start to move into each one of these? You can just take yourself off mute and ask that question because I can't see the people out there.
It doesn't look like there's any
All right,
questions.
and I'll keep talking. All right, so the first option is to leave it. And so if you leave it at your employer, a lot of people do this because a lot of times they don't know what to do with it. Now, a lot of times when they do, people do leave their retirement plans because they're not fully retired yet. Maybe they've moved to another employer and the company is not in a hurry to push them out, so they leave. So the advantages are you're avoiding, taxes or other distributions. You're paying lower fees a lot of times in a 401k than you would in a traditional IRA. That is one of the advantages. And you also have earlier access many times to penalty-free withdrawal. So if you were to need some of that money, some plans allow you to access it after age 55, where typically a retirement plan does not have access to assets until age 59 and a half. And then there's also greater creditor protection. So if you are anticipating bankruptcy or litigation of any type, many times if it's kept in the 401k, it's more protected from creditors than if it is in a traditional IRA. Potential trade-offs of leaving it can be, you just don't have as much control. You don't have as much decisions on what that is, what is invested. And one of the things to remember too is if you're retiring and your money is in an accumulation model, an accumulation plan, which typically is what a 401k is, which means that it's more weighted towards earning more money and stock plans and more riskier options than income options or other things. So you have limited investment options and it's really built more as an accumulation model than it is a retirement income model. And that's one of the things a financial advisor, a financial planner can do for you is help mold your assets to where it's going to produce income, but also grow at the same time. So that you have to be, and then the other thing is if you have multiple 401ks, I sometimes have people come in my office and they'll say, hey, I've got money a little bit everywhere. And they say, I was told not to put all my eggs in one basket. So I didn't do that. And I've got 6 different plans and 6 different things. And we just are able to consolidate all that to be able to help that person create a singular income to help supplement Social Security or anything else that they may have in their plans. Potential benefits of moving the money. So the first one was leave it, now it's move it. So this is talking about moving it to a new plan. Now this was something that I think it was 2002 under George W. Bush that was brought out. I remember when it was kind of a big deal when it came out. I was pretty new at the time, and I remember people talking about it, and something that I don't encounter too much in the industry where people say, well, hey, I want to move my plan to the new. Sometimes they think that it'll compound faster if it's in a plan with more money, but that's really not true. And so a lot of times, you can still take advantage of lower fees by doing that, but the only issue, you still get all the potentials of the benefits of leaving it. You get the greater creditor protection. You can get some account consolidation by doing this, but sometimes one of the issues can be that you are limiting your investments, your investment selection. But you do have the ability sometimes to even delay required minimum distributions if you're still working. So there's some of the options that the Security Act 2.0 has offered us through retirement plans. So the potential trade-offs, as I mentioned, is less individual control. So what you're doing is you're taking your old plan and now you're submitting it to your new employer. You don't know how long you're necessarily going to be there. And so you have to decide, do I really want to submit assets that I have to them? Now, it's not like they can really take it. There's always the horror stories of people 20-something years ago that lost money with Enron and things like that. But there's been a lot of pension protection acts and a variety of different things to help protect those assets from becoming general assets of your employer. So if your employer were to have issues, financial issues, you're not necessarily going to lose your retirement funds, but it's still a concern because there could be some complications in getting those funds. And then you also don't have access to a financial advisor. And that's the job I do. And essentially, a lot of times what happens is one of the values, one of the things that we as financial advisor, not just Edward Jones, but any financial advisor, I'm sure, is that we offer is if you're over and you have money with, Fidelity, or you have money with, whatever 401k or something like that, and you call up and you say, hey, I'm nervous about the markets. I don't know what's happening, the election or whatever. And I want to shift everything to cash, or I want to take a check or whatever. And you call them and they're generally going to say, okay, you're out. We'll go ahead and take that transaction. And as of 3 o'clock today, you're officially out. At Edward Jones and other financial advisors, one of the things we're going to do is if you want out, we're going to do that. We're going to make those shifts if you need to, but we're going to ask you questions. We're going to say, hey, why do you feel this way? And that's in one way we're kind of counselors is, okay, so maybe let's look at some options. Let's look at reducing risk, or what is it that you're hearing? Well, here's history. And we use a variety of different things to help you make educated choices. And ultimately, if your choice is to do it, but in most cases, staying in the long term, and any of you out there who have, accumulated large balances over the years know that staying in is generally what has done that, and weathering the ups and downs. So that's one of the values a financial advisor can bring. So let's talk a little bit about an IRA before we talk about rolling it. So let's define what an IRA is. And an IRA is not an account, but I shouldn't say it's not an investment. That's a better term. So a lot of people say, oh, well, what are your IRAs paying? Well, it's because the banks over the years have called IRAs, CDs inside IRAs, just IRAs. Well, an IRA can have mutual funds. It can have stocks and bonds. It can have a variety of different things in it. So really, an IRA is just tax legislation that allows you to be able to grow your money and make a percentage, whatever that is, in dividends, interest, capital gains, or whatever, and not have to pay taxes on it every year. So that's really what it is. So you can have an IRA in addition to your plan at work. You may not be able to deduct it generally, but you can also have a Roth IRA, which doesn't have a deduction, but after owning it for 5 years, turns into a tax-free retirement income stream, which is great. So let's take a look at the first one. The traditional IRA gives you the opportunity for tax deferred growth. So whatever goes in stays in that IRA, and it swirls around and it makes money. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but over time it makes money, and you're not taxed on that. So you're making the money you're not paying taxes on, you're making money on. So that's the benefit there. There's potentially tax deductible contributions that you can make if you do not have an employer plan. You are taxed upon distribution. So the moment you take a check, you're going to pay taxes, or it's going to become taxable. And if you're under 59.5, generally, you are going to pay an additional 10% penalty unless it qualifies for certain allowances and certain things such as disability and a variety of different things. So, and then also you have a required minimum distribution at age 72. And I believe that's actually been updated, should be updated, and it's age 73 now. A Roth IRA. Roth IRA was created in 1997 by a senator that made the motion. They named it after him. His name was William Roth. And basically it's the opportunity for tax-free growth. So the money goes in similarly to the traditional. You don't get any kind of tax deduction for going in, and your contributions are not deductible, but there's potentially no tax on distributions as long as it's held longer than 5 years and you're over 59 and a half. If you ever do pay any taxes on it, it's only on the gain. So your principal is never taxed. Your principal is also reachable if you need to without a tax penalty. So if you've put in so much into a Roth IRA, many times you can get that money out without tax penalty as long as you don't take any of the gains. A lot of people don't know that. There's also never going, well, right now, there's no currently a required minimum distribution on Roth IRAs. And some people still working and past that age can still contribute to these plans, even though they're past RMD age of 73. So potential benefits to an IRA. So by rolling it, by bringing it over, this is something that I do quite a bit for people. And is you take the money out, you have the check. We'll talk about this in a little bit. The check is actually payable to our company, to Edward Jones, for your benefit. And that covers the taxable side of it. So you're not paying taxes, and then you can access the money as you need to. If you're not 59 and a half yet, you don't have to access it yet because you'd have penalties. If you're over 59 and a half, you can still create an income stream through it. So it gives you, by rolling it, because we have hundreds of different or thousands of different investment selections and things that we can do for you, you have greater individual control. We have the option to be able to help you more, or you can direct it yourself. It's still through us. You're never going, with Edward Jones, you're never going online and changing your investments. All the changes and everything go through us, but you have an advisor. That's an advantage because you have somebody working with you to help you design the portfolio correctly. And so a lot of times when you have questions, you have understanding. Think of this stuff kind of like owning a car, right? You know that you know how to put oil, top up your oil, maybe put gas in the car, maybe change your wiper blades, things that are simple maintenance, but you shouldn't really be trying to overhaul a transmission. Like the things that it's usually best. It's kind of like your taxes. Many times, you can do your taxes on your own. Once things start getting complicated, you can look and think, okay, I need a CPA. I need somebody to help me with that. And so that's kind of the role that we play. But it doesn't mean that we're just going to direct everything. We're always going to work with you, shoulder to shoulder with you. I make an emphasis on not trying to, lord over knowledge, everything. This stuff isn't rocket science. You can handle it, you can do it. A lot of times, again, like working on your own car, you could change your own oil, but and I did that once and I made a huge mess, but I did it, right? And so you can do that, but a lot of times it's easier to just trust a professional and have somebody do it and get it done. So it's just a way that we can direct and we can work with you and make sure that you have a successful retirement, because money is not the most important thing, and it's family and it's people and it's all these things. But what the money and by being a financial advisor, what we're able to do is we're able to help you with that part so you can worry about what really matters. When somebody has a life insurance benefit because they had a death in the family or something like that, it's not about the money, but that money allows them to grieve. It allows them to take care of their finances and things. And that's why we have that, is so that we can take care of the things that are more important. So the other thing you can do with rolling over is if you have multiple retirement accounts, either with the same employer, with various employers, and you can bring it all into the same IRA, and we consolidate it to kind of create a plan that has a single purpose to create retirement income for you. So some of the trade-offs is that, we are more expensive than your 401k. Your 401k many times is like 0.25%. Working with a financial advisor generally costs about 1% a year at the max on all your assets and all your investments, I should say. So, and many times it's much less than that. I have many clients that are paying less than 0.5% a year. So it is higher, but it's not as high as you might think. And something else that I do tell clients is when we're working with a financial plan, it is not my intent or Edward Jones' intent to figure out how much we can charge you to get as much as we can from you. I look for ways to lower your expenses and still get the value and things that you want. And because my view is I would rather have people who are happy working with us and happy in their retirement and they can refer their friends and things like that. So you do want to watch fees, because fees, no matter where you go, if you're in variable annuities and things like that, you don't even realize it, and you're paying 2 or 3% in internal expenses. And the reason why your money's not growing is because the company that's providing the products are charging you quite a bit. So it's important to look at what the expenses are in the investment products that you have, because it could be critical to your success going forward. One of the other things is, you could have later access to withdrawals if many times if you think you're going to need money early, many times we take that before we roll it so that you're not paying any penalties on it. We also do, if you do decide that you want to retire early, we have an option that is, it's not in this seminar, but it is something that is generally done, is called 72T payments. 72T payments start at age 55. And you're essentially taking the same amount over the 4 or 5 years before you turn 59 and a half. Excuse me, before you turn 59 and a half. Easy for me to say. And so you're able to take those payments and you're able to get that money out without penalty. But it takes a commitment, because you can change it, you can lower it once, but you generally can't turn it off. So once you commit to it, you have to keep taking it, and you do have to pay taxes on that money. But that is an option for people in early retirement. That's been around for quite a while. So here we have direct versus indirect rollover. So what I was referring to, many times if you have an employer plan, it's not hard to get that money moving. Many times we're able to do it by phone within a week to be able to get that money inside an IRA. If you've recently retired, sometimes they will wait until they have your paperwork that you've officially retired. Another option that you can for a rollover, a lot of people don't realize, is something called an in-service withdrawal. An in-service withdrawal is when you're over 59 and a half and you are able to move that money, roll over that money, and kind of, I call it nesting, like kind of like when we prepare for a baby to be born or prepare for a large life transition, we can prepare. So many times people more than a year, 5 years, 3 years, sometimes away from retirement, if their company will allow it, they're able to roll that money, a good portion of that money over, still maintain contributions to the plan, still get the company match. It does not generally hurt their benefits, and we always make sure that we ask and we confirm that on a recorded line. So we have recourse. So we want to make sure that it's in the best interest, but many times you can access that money early. So when you retire, you kind of roll and you hit the ground running. And some people find that advantageous. So the difference between a direct rollover and an indirect rollover essentially is they make the check payable to us, as I mentioned earlier. So we're able to kind of contain the taxes on that, and so you're not paying the taxes or having to get back the tax money. So it's rolled to us for your benefit. Many times, some plans will actually mail it right to the company, and we're able to set that up for you. There's no 20% required withholding. There's no taxes due at the time, and there's no penalties. If you take an indirect rollover, which means they're making the check out payable to you, you can still roll that over into an IRA, but unfortunately, when they make that distribution, they're going to withhold 20% in taxes. If you end up rolling that over and coming to us within 60 days, or any brokerage firm, you can do a indirect rollover but you will still have had paid those 20% in taxes, and you will get those back applied to your refund or lack thereof when you file your taxes that year. So it's usually a better idea, no matter what you're doing, to, if you're going to do any kind of rollover, is to do a direct rollover, and you could face some penalties if you're beyond the 60 days. So it's usually better to do a direct rollover. Now I'm going to open it up to questions again. Is there anybody out there that has any questions here so far? You can just unmute yourself.
Not so far. I had a question. How long does it take a rollover? How long does a rollover take?
Pretty quick these days. You know, like, the longer I've been in this business, the faster money moves. So, and now that we're in, it used to be T+3 when I started, now it's T+1, which means when money is sold, it has a settlement period. So it used to take 3 business days before anything could be done. Now we're at 1 business day. So that speeds things up. So if you call a company that's your retirement plan, like an Empower or wherever, and you do a rollover, and what happens is, I do these calls all the time. And we call in and we give them your social security number, we sign in, you have the PIN and everything, and you confirm with them. I generally will lead the call and I'll say, hey, my name is Roy Mason with Edward Jones. I have Joe Smith on the line with me. Go ahead and identify. And then they do that. And then once, it's usually about once we get off hold, it's usually about a 10-minute call. And we explain all the issues, and I work with that retirement advisor to make sure that we're doing everything right. And we usually recommend expediting it. So going back to your question, once we're done with that, typically 3 to 7 business days, we've got the check.
Speed of money. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's another just thing listening to you talk? It sounds like 59.5 is the magic number. Why is it 59.5?
I have no idea. I remember getting in
Okay.
trouble with my mother-in-law years ago for sending her a letter congratulating her on reaching 59.5. So she was not happy. Now, it's been long enough. I'm a few years away from it myself, but I'm 53 years old, so I'm going to be around a while.
Okay. Well, those are my questions as of yet.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks, Ashley. Appreciate it. All right. So let's keep moving. How are we doing time-wise? Are we okay?
Yep. It's about to be 7 o'clock.
Okay. So this was running an hour, correct? We won't be that. Yeah, we won't be that long. Okay. So potential trade-offs of taking it. So now we're talking about actually taking constructive receipt, not rolling it over and saying, hey, I'm done. Give me my money. I saw something the other day with somebody doing that, and it can be potentially dangerous financially to do that. So because you're taxing the years distributed. So if you have $100,000 and you make $100,000, now your income is going to be taxed at the $200,000 level, and they're generally going to withhold 20%. Plus you could, depending on if you're not 59.5, you could pay a 10% penalty. So usually you want to think about that before you do something like that. Now, if you got to take a little bit in order, you want to pay down debt before you retire or something like that, that's one thing. But you generally want to be careful in how much you take, because it can definitely have some negative tax ramifications. So here's an illustration for that. So if someone's in the 24% tax bracket and they take $100,000 in a given year, then they're going to end up only netting out $76,000. If you're younger than 59.5, it gets a little bit worse. So $100,000, the 24% tax bracket, and you have a 10% penalty, which means you're only getting $66,000 in real cash from a $100,000 taxable distribution. So the power of tax deferral. So whenever you're taking money out and you're paying taxes, you're taking it today, you got to think about the future. Think about how much money that could eventually grow. Because one of the things I would say is, when you're retiring, you are still a long-term investor. You're still potentially going to be retired for 20 to 30 years. People don't always think about that, and so just as long as your working life you could have in retirement, especially with longevity these days, and the way science is, and the medical breakthroughs, we could end up living longer. And that's actually one of the concerns when we go through the financial planning process that we can do with you is to be able to show how living longer can be, you know, you can be more expensive, but it's a good thing. And I always make the joke of saying to my clients, you're welcome to live as long as you like. Our goal is to just make sure there's always enough money there to go around. So we see 10 years. You have the difference between if it was tax deferred growth, so taxable income in the exact same investment, you would be, and this is being taxed in the maximum tax bracket, I guess it is in 24%. So you are taxed, and it would be 12,511 in 10 years, and it would have been 19,672 in 10 years if it was tax deferred. In 20 years, it would be 20,869 taxable versus almost double at 38,697. Going out longer, 30 years, $34,000, the money would have grown to, and it would be worth over double at 76,123. So what happens is, because you're not paying taxes on that every year, and that money is compounding. So one of the things that I tell my clients when they're retiring is they're thinking, well, how much money am I making in retirement? It's actually more like how little money are you making? Because a lot of times you don't want to necessarily take out, like when you're working, you're thinking, okay, what's my income? The more money I'm making, the better. But what happens is you want to make money inside your accounts, but you just want to make enough to be able to cover your expenses, to cover your travel, to cover, you know, if you need to buy a car, you need to do home repairs, all these things. But anything else that you're not using, keep it in the IRA because you're not paying taxes on it. And so it's really not about trying to make more other than earn more inside. And so you have to think a little bit differently in retirement. And that's one of the things that we help people do. So the other side of it when taking it is if you have employer stock. So we see this a lot with people who are retiring from Abbott or other companies out here. So this is going to be a little bit more personal for some people. But a lot of times, you know, if you have, there's a lot of people that work for some of these large companies. The culture is, hey, put all your retirement plan in one stock. And for some people they've done really well. But when you retire, you seriously need to look at diversifying out, being in different asset classes, having bonds in your portfolio, making sure that, you know, as I say, you invest with two pedals. You want to have the accelerator, you want to have the brake, so that the stock is your accelerator and bonds are your brake. So you want to have a little bit of everything. And it's okay to have a little bit of that employer stock too. So if you're taking a distribution, this isn't necessarily for rolling it over, but if you're taking a distribution, there is something referred to as NUA, which is it can be lost if you roll it over, but it allows you to, even though if money has been tax deferred, to only pay taxes on the gain. So that is something that has to be looked at an individual basis. But it's also something that generally, if you're rolling over your plan, it's not really something that's applicable. If you have a pension, okay, I had somebody in my office today that, you know, they didn't feel like they had enough built in their plans, but they had a fantastic pension. And so what you have to think about is if you're making, you know, $40,000 or $50,000 a year in a pension, what you want to think about is somebody came to me with $1 million and said, hey, how much of this, if I want my $1 million to keep growing, how much of this can I take out every year and be able to take a 3% increase every year? And I would say between $40,000 and $50,000. Usually 40 is better, even if less, especially depending on what age you are. So when you have a $50,000 pension, you have effectively $1 million working for you. Unfortunately, you can't liquidate and say, hey, give me that money, or hey, I need to buy a car or go on a cruise, but you still have the earning power of that. So you should feel good about that. So many times when you have an annuity payment, you want to take a look. It can offer you a lifetime of income, possibly for you or your spouse. The payments are predictable. It can kind of give you it's not a bad thing to have that for some of your money. You'll have that maybe through Social Security if you're eligible for Social Security, but you'll also have an additional amount that you can count on. You have to take a look at what the inflation protection is, what would be your break-even point, so and I can help do that. We can use various tools, calculators, and even what's something called the rule of 72 I used today for somebody. And there's things that we can do to help you figure out which is the best option. Do I take the pension or do I take the lump sum? So you have to take a look at that, but you have to ultimately make the choice that's best for you. It's like that with Social Security. A lot of people always ask me, when's the best time to take Social Security? Should I try to push it to age 70 so I get that maximum benefit? Should I take it early? Should I take it at 66 and 4 months or 67 or whatever? The best solution I can always give you with that is take it when you need it. Take it when it's going to make that difference for you. And if it's a little bit less than what you would get if you waited, you're still getting that amount. And you have to look at longevity and mortality and like all these things to figure out what the best option. But the best option is the one that suits you, not somebody in a textbook or somebody on a website. So the other thing with annuities that it does offer is if you are getting, let's say you're getting, $3,000 a month, that'd be a great annuity, a pension to have, and you're getting $3,000 a month, and then something happens to you and you're married, well, your spouse generally will get 50%. Is typical. Now, not all pensions have that built in. You're built into a 3% typically growth in that payment, and your spouse would get 50% of that money. But that's something to take a look at and to evaluate, and that's something that we help people with as well. So just kind of a summarization as we come to the end. So your options, of course, are leaving it with the employer. Many times people do that, especially when they're still working. But I would encourage you to take control of it, weigh all the trade-offs and the expenses, but take control of it and be able to help direct that money towards financial success. You can move it to your current employer. You are then submitting to their choices, but it does have a lower expense and some increased protection from creditors. You can roll it, and you can roll from various different places that you've worked into one IRA and create an income stream. There is sometimes higher expenses working with a professional, no different than doing your own taxes versus going to a CPA. But many times we end up paying for ourselves in a lot of ways because of things that we can help you with and things that we can show you. So, and then the other option, of course, is to take it. So be mindful of that and the tax ramifications of that. You can get to the money depending on the situation, but know the rules of the road. Know what the taxes are. And if you know somebody, or I'm always a phone call away. So if I can ever help you with anything and give you an idea of stuff, or even just some basic information, I'm always happy to help. We do have some supporting information, the participant workbook, if we had done this in person, and I appreciate people out there that we're going to come down to the library out there. But we did want to, if you want to give our office a call or stay on today and give me your information, I can mail the participant guide to you, where you have some of this as a hard copy. I believe Ashley is recording this, so you can always go back and see this as well. So basically, just wanted to say thank you for being here and open it up to any questions.
Awesome. Thank you. I have a sort of a silly, and maybe not silly, and a very ill-informed question. What is an annuity?
Okay. So that's the answer. That's kind of complicated, but I'll see if I can simplify it. So an annuity really, in a sense, just means you're getting the same payment over your life. Okay, so that's an annuitized payment. So an annuitized payment could come in the form of a pension, could come in the form of a variable annuity that someone may have. So sometimes you'll have, just various companies that have these annuities. So an annuity in a variable annuity form is like an insured mutual fund. So it's insured, it has a death benefit. So if you have $100,000 in that annuity and you put it in and it goes to 80 or it goes to 120, you're guaranteed to get at least that $100,000 that you put back into it. So it's an investment where you can then eventually turn it into income if you like. But one of the dangers of them, and I use them marginally for some people if it's appropriate, but the problem with many of them is they have internal expense ratios that are very high. So typically with a variable annuity, comparatively to a mutual fund, that your internal expenses are going to be less than 1%, where an average variable annuity out there is 3 to 4%, which what that means is before you make 1%, the company has to make 3 to 4%. So your returns are going to be a lot lower, but you have safety and you have security of principal because
And is there some sort of weird way that they're transferable in death? Like, I feel like I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I have an old annuity that my mom had," or,
I mean, generally they're death benefits, so they're paid cash.
they are death benefits.
Yeah, so you don't generally transfer ownership of annuities that I know of. And there's also fixed annuities, which are almost like insurance company CDs. So they're not really, the same, and they don't have very little expenses. The other thing out there that you have to be careful of is these index annuities, fixed index annuities. It's not something we choose because many times they're not, well, I know they're not regulated. So everything that we do, we're fiduciaries, and that's a buzzword that's out there. Well, when you're working with these index annuities, these guys are generally not fiduciaries, and they're not even regulated, so they can make all kinds of claims. They are low risk. I mean, I will admit that, but they're correlated to the index. And usually most people, I don't want to blanket because I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but most people who invest in those are usually sorry they did because they're not getting the returns that were promised to them.
But so do you recommend that people with, I guess pensions have additional, like, pension can't be transferred in death?
Yeah, I mean, so if you have a pension benefit, you are generally, your spouse is gonna get half. If you pass away, they will get half. And they'll continue to get that income. They won't necessarily get the lump sum, depending on the pension. In most cases, they'll get half the income that you were getting.
Hmm. Okay. Well, we've had some thank yous in the chat. We're at 7:10 or so. If anybody else has additional questions for Roy, I'd happily read them out loud to the group. Otherwise, I very much, encourage you to reach out to Roy. He's been a friend of mine and a colleague for a long time. So I've known Roy and I trust him, and I'm happy to see him, even if it's online. So yeah, like you said, thank you to those who we're okay with transferring over to online instead of
Yeah.
meeting in person, but it's just sometimes the way it is. So I did record this, and I will send it out to everybody who registered, including you, Roy. So I will copy you on it and Blind Carbon everybody else. So if they want to reply to you directly, they can do so easily. And yeah,
Right.
easily.
And I wasn't able to see it. How many people did we have in our maximum?
11.
11. Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
great.
So,
Yeah.
okay, everyone. It was a great evening, great class. Thank you again,
Thank you.
Roy.
And as Ashley said, if just give me a call. I am a financial advisor that does return phone calls. So I will call you. If you reach out, if they don't connect you directly to me, I will speak to you. I will answer your questions, and I will not send you a bill. It's only you'll always know what you're getting when you work with us. So if I can help you, give me a call.
All right, everyone.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Roy. Bye.